So we are here with Davorom Branimirom Vinczeom and Julie Herndon, our guest composers that are a part of a wonderful project, a collaboration between Stanford University and Muzičkom Biennalu Zagreb. We are presenting your works that were recorded in Berlin with ensemble Decoder. Of course, this crazy pandemic stopped our plans to make things live, and so this is kind of a solution we all found to make this project happen. And I was wondering about some points concerning your works, and I'd like you to both think about this question now and answer me. When I was reading the stories about your operas, what they're about, I was wondering what motivated you to get involved with those stories. You know, what was your sparkle? Why did you choose these subjects, these themes, these plots?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I guess what really interested me about the story of Gertrude and Alice is that it's, at its heart, it's a love story, but it's a really complicated love story because there are so many power dynamics between these two really creative people. And so I was really interested in exploring, like, what does it mean to give somebody a voice and to speak for them and to give them a platform? And also, what does it mean to steal their voice and to issue that voice as your own? And those really complicated relationships between those two things. So I've always loved Gertrude Stein's writing and really resonated with it. And then as I got to know it more and discovered these interpersonal things with her and her partner, I got really kind of sucked into it, I guess.
I can understand that. Actually, it's quite a strong story.
Yeah.
Well, mine is far from that. I kind of could even connect because a lot of what Xinsheng is about this different power dynamics also between the characters and about how things don't always turn out the way you think they might. And actually it's interesting, unlike Julie, who maybe took an existing so already a recognized artist to kind of build upon. I collaborated with a friend whose name is Alex Gutkono, and he's a libretto writer and a poem writer, and he lives in London. And so I kind of gave him actually the like, I want to have some kind of a love triangle. I want to have some kind of talk about people manipulating each other, and then he created a story about Xinsheng that kind of unites the whole thing into this, where it really goes about also the power dynamics and how this is like a 20-minute version of what I'd like to one day turn into a full-fledged opera. So, so yeah, I guess this is just like a little insert into what the whole story is going to be about.
Of course, 20 minutes is not enough for an opera, that is clear. What do you think? How does the perception differ now that it's in a video form? You know, I was wondering, there are advantages and disadvantages, or some obstacles, good and bad parts of it. You know, like live performance is something completely different than a video recording of an opera, which is mainly video recording. And how much has it changed the way you thought about it, or has it changed in your ideas something? You know, how did it work out for you from the moment where you wanted to write this piece and it should have been live to the moment you actually got a chance only to do a video form out of it? Julie?
I guess for me, it kind of enabled thinking about visual actions as part of the piece. And I think that even if this piece were live, there would still need to be visual amplification of things, because there's so much writing and tactility about the act of writing and the act of typing, and amplifying that visually with a video works just as well as amplifying, projecting it larger with live players. So for me, what the performers are doing is usually a very important part of the pieces that I write. And so I tend to think of it in those ways. And Heinrich Horwitza did the video direction for this and had really brought a really clear vision, and I think really amplified those parts of the piece that needed these sorts of like close-up details of exactly what is happening. And yeah, I think it kind of just focused in on those smaller moments and made them a larger part of the plot or the piece.
Okay.
For me, it was, I guess, oh, sorry, did I start?
I said, how about you, Davor?
Oh, I said, how about, yeah, right. So for me, it was like, of course, being with the coder, and I dared to fly over to Berlin and conduct them. That was such a tremendous experience. And also what Julie mentioned, opera as any, right, would have had certain visual aspects that on a stage are kind of hard to document. So we were using certain 3 or 4 different areas in Berlin, all very close by, but they were video shooting, and that would have certainly been much more complicated to reconstruct on a stage. So that was kind of an advantage. What was a big disadvantage for me was the fact that actually what I aimed with the project that was canceled just before this one, and then with this opera, is I'm recently experimenting with this interaction with the audience, and it's kind of like there was this other project where we were supposed to split the audience in 2 rooms and then vice versa, kind of show excerpts from things happening in 2 stages. And then this was supposed to also play a little bit in the audience with this kind of like live interaction where people are receiving pre-recorded materials on their smartphones. So all of those ideas basically were not possible to really realize. And then I focused more on the music. And what's good about a video also with electronics, you oftentimes have issues with feedback and stuff like that. Here was you just do the perfect version of the electronics and you montage it underneath, and you can work on it for hours. And if you don't like this little glitch, then you can make it again. So those were the advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, you have a chance for some kind of perfection, but there's never perfection, but still you have this chance with risks. I was wondering also, what was the experience to work with musicians of Genius Ensemble Decoder, who are now also took roles of actors, actually. And Davor, you actually also took a little role, as I've seen. Yeah, that was just but I mean, what can you say about this collaboration in a way that it's quite it's a special thing to have musicians as an ensemble and actually make a movie with them. Actually, they have a different role, so it's quite an extended role. And do you have any memorable moments or fun facts you want to share, or also just simply the process? How was the process?
Well, it was really wonderful to work with Decoder, and they were fantastic in so many ways. And even from doing Zoom rehearsals and being so removed from the process, they brought so much to it and really carried a lot of energy. And I felt really lucky to have Jess Azodi and Carola Schall, who were doing the roles of Gertrude and Alice. And I think Jess was really familiar with Gertrude's writing and really resonated with it. And so she was able to bring a lot of depth to that character of Gertrude, just knowing her writing in the same way that I had known it, and bringing that experience to it. And Carola was able to bring this. She does a lot of work as a performer also of physical actions and physical theater. So she was able to bring that expertise into this role of Alice and really kind of more of a physical theater of what that character was, as opposed to speaking it or acting it in a kind of outward necessarily way, just little subtleties. So they were all fantastic. And Heinrich, again, was directing them and kind of guiding and bringing certain things out, which I think worked really well for the overall vision. So what was your experience, Davor?
I would start with Heinrich, because for me, it really felt like Heinrich was the person who was, I mean, I'm pretty sure that it wasn't much different for yours, but because you were only present for the Zoom sessions and I was there also to see a little bit behind the scenes, I saw how well she was coaching them. And she was really, there were a few really intense acting moments between the driver and his assistant, which Leopold and Sonia, those are the zither player and the cello player, had to enact. And you could see the difference from the first day when they just like plainly read the text, and how Heinrich would step in and she would sit down and she would say, look, you're nervous, like, you know, we're gonna give you a chewing gum. Look, you're nervous, you're doing something illegal. And she would like get so energetic into it, and then like very soon you could just see how there was a transfer of that energy from Heinrich to Sonia, who then became that kind of like nervous person who's, you know, doing something illegal. She knows she shouldn't be doing it, but she's still doing it because she needs money, and, you know, and then like she was really a great coach. I loved it.
I suppose it was also, this kind of challenges are also fun for people who are open-minded like that, and a great artist actually as the Quadra ensemble. So I'm sure it's a strong experience to be a part of it. I was wondering, Julie, in your case, actually, I was hearing this piece and I was reading about it. So actually for me, this inequality has actually some kind of main role. How would you describe, how would you say, what was your approach, musical approach to this element, actually, to this,
Well, a lot of it had to do with Alice finding her voice in a way, finding a way for herself to sound and to kind of self-express in this kind of more like almost a narratively oppressive zone that she was in, with Gertrude kind of like telling her story and taking that from her. So musically, this is her starting to play clarinet as opposed to being more of a silent acting character or a speaking character, and the clarinet becomes a more important role as the piece goes on, and especially in this kind of love scene that they have where she's playing with just singing, and then in the end when she's they're playing and singing together again. So it really, the clarinet and that instrument of hers is her way of kind of expressing that. And also this inequality factor, Sonia actually played a role in being their kind of the mirror or shadow of their relationship, and her presence in the piece and her the way that she's using her cello and the way that she's kind of echoing them and responding to them is this kind of mirror that that kind of represents their relationship, and that part that's not the inequality part, but their actual love part. So there are a few different ways I thought about it, but I think the general arc is just Alice finding what it means to sound in a way that's different from Gertrude. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it comes out quite strongly, actually. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Davor, I was wondering about something you call a microlage, and this is like an element that brings story inside of a story. It shows it takes hidden meanings. It shows hidden meanings. Can you tell us something about it? How did you approach it?
Sure. I mean, I guess I started working on this idea of generally actually comes from fragmentation, and how you can, have, fragments, and then they kind of like collide to create a larger whole. And I created one piece that was recently performed by an orchestra where I was like extensively using this technique of like taking a very limited source from somebody else and then kind of like pulling it through everything, really by stretching it in all possible directions, but like being very minimalistic. And in the case of Vinče, I wrote like maybe 10 or 12 years ago this little piano piece that was a commercial. And so in the opera itself, it works as this melody that comes as such, presented as a commercial for this product, which is supposed to be this wonderful rejuvenating water and, you know, isotonic or something like that. But behind it is this whole story that is rather cruel. And so I also thought how I can take those very simple kind of melodic line, which is descending fifths and fourths, and then do all possible way of things with it. And so I was like structuring form, and there are little fragments of it or things, notably this like slower aria part where it's kind of like this very distorted hypnotic thing. I don't know, and you'll hear it. It's kind of describe in words.
But this orchestral piece, was it the one I've heard also in Zagreb with
yeah, it's the one that
yeah, this is one can hear your voice somehow with this technique.
Well, in that orchestra piece, it was a lot about saturation, you know, and it's easy to, you know, just oversaturate things. Here I was doing with dilution. Here I was really doing like with saying like, okay, if I were to stretch this thing, you know, at some points it's going to start breaking apart, and then there are these almost like rhythmical patterns that emerge from it being really super stretched in time. So I was like trying to work in a very different direction. Instead of like overpopulating it, I was like underpopulating it and still kind of preserving the same principle.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was wondering, let's make it the last question. After this experience, do you have a need? Do you feel like you would love to write a next opera, and how would you approach it? Would it be like with a bigger lineup, or longer or shorter? Or do you have a wish for a new opera after this experience? Julie?
A 1-minute opera.
Yeah, there are projects like that, yes.
I think I would love to write a longer one. Mm-hmm. I would even write a longer one using the same writer, same text, building on it. Yeah, I think that, and I think I would continue. I would use video too. I think it's a nice way to kind of to bring out those visual details.
Yes, it gives another strength to the piece, actually. Yes.
Yeah, I think it does. And, you know, everybody watches things online anyway. So, you know, why not make something that's not just like a documentation of it, but that really brings out what you want to show. Mm-hmm. So I liked the format of video, and I'm not even that opposed to the timing, you know. I believe in, you know, shorter attention spans are okay. And in writing something that's 20 minutes as opposed to 2 hours, it's like, that's all right too. So,
yeah, I understand that. Yes, I'm a big friend of shorter forms in this way. You can say enough things in 20-25 minutes.
It's true. You can get the point across.
Yeah. Davor, I think...
as I already mentioned, I would really like to develop this into a full evening opera, maybe not more than an hour and a half, like 2 halves of 45 minutes. But I would really like to work musically with similar themes, but then also very much interactively. And as Julie was mentioning, video. Actually, what I found very astonishing is because I knew all the venues, I mean, places, right, where we shot. But then Heinrich and Lara, her assistant, Rodriguez, was able to put some kind of a hue over the whole thing. And this is also what I was thinking, maybe if I would be using video within the opera, then, you know, playing really like hidden camera hue, kind of like iPhone camera hue. And it's surprising how you know the place, And sometimes you almost don't recognize the place because this particular angle, right? You are not behind the cameraman's angle, and then you add a little bit of a hue, and it gives such a powerful emotion to a place that, you know, when you're in it, you're like, okay, just like a garage, but then it's like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is a gloomy garage, you know, and it's kind of like those sort of things.
Yeah, opening up spaces and perceptions. Yeah, of course. So I thank you for this talk. We were talking about Vinče from Davorom Branimirom Vinczeom, and about At That Time from Julie Herndon. And there will also be a third opera, short opera showed in Biennale Zagreb from a composer that unfortunately couldn't join us, but his name is Chris Lordy, and we are very looking forward to this event and to see you live in Zagreb. Thank you very much both. See you soon.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.